Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake!
我上来啊！我上来了！埋伏啦啦丢啦！打不啊打不呢！
Aliens will be the excuse for the government to knock out the power supply, turn off the internet, and then implement what is known as FedNow and central bank digital currencies, and this will also help the national federal debt. This will be how the government also gets people like you and I to stop talking to each other. At the onset of the no one really thought how much it would grow and what the ramifications economically would be. However, we saw that it had drastic impact not just then, but years down the road as we deal with inflation today. Whether aliens are real or not, they can be utilized to change the current economic and monetary system in place, which is quite clearly failing. If you're unfamiliar, FedNow is basically instant payments with the digital dollar. Every single thing you do will be tracked. And you know when you see names like Wells Fargo and JP Morgan Chase that this is coming. However, it has not been wide-scale adopted yet, still waiting on Citibank and Bank of America. And of course, people like you and I.
Here is another example of an old Tartarian building with the ability to harness energy from the ether and produce free electricity for the people. Now at the top, you are going to see the antenna, which is shaped like the moon, which I find very interesting. And then you're going to see these balls, and these balls are actually filled with mercury. When mercury spins, it creates a current. And here's a great example of this. And if you take mercury in a flask and spin it over a voltage meter, it'll actually produce current. If you analyze all old buildings, you'll see this technology. All of these buildings were designed to harness energy from the ether. The antennas harness the electromagnetic energy from the ether that is then sent to the mercury. The mercury spins and creates the current. This is why when you research Tartaria and free energy technology, they never used wires. Here's another great example of this. You don't see wires. Cathedrals all over the world produced free energy. That's why the word cathode is in it. Cathode is a type of electrode. This is why the windows on all these cathedrals represented cymatic patterns, because they were sound healing centers that generated free electricity. This is the cymatic pattern of a cathedral bell. As you can see, it matches this pattern in this window. Literally all windows in these cathedrals represent certain cymatic pattern. These cathedrals were designed for people to lay down and experience sound healing. They were designed to pitch sound at some of the best frequencies. This truth has certainly been hidden from us, but we are at a point where humanity is waking up and we are going to take back our power. Peace.
Sailing back, I guess.
A state of emergency in effect this morning as wind-fueled wildfires are burning dangerously close to homes. Officials say strong winds from Hurricane Dora are fueling these fires that have burned multiple structures in Maui, also on the Big Island. Evacuations are ongoing right now. And the Coast Guard says a dozen people were rescued after they jumped into the ocean to escape the flames. Is this unprecedented in the history of Hawaii?
It is unprecedented. When we deal with hurricane and disasters following hurricane, we're usually dealing with heavy rain, we're dealing with flooding. The fact that we have wildfires in multiple areas as a result of indirectly from a hurricane is unprecedented. Since the last time I spoke to CNN, it has turned very serious. And
I don't know if anybody realized this yet about this video, but didn't I come up like this around people? There's something wrong with that rainwater.
Nope, this is not fake, and this terrifying situation is believed to be happening everywhere soon. Alaska was declared in a state of emergency after a sudden huge surge of flooding caused mass evacuation and 2 whole buildings to completely be taken out. It was reported each family and citizen was told to pack as much as they could, and they only had 10 minutes to pack and flee with their lives. The water was reported so high that the area where the houses were sitting would now require a kayak to get to, and it is reported the water is still rising in some areas. This happened in Alaska, the Mendenhall Glacier had just melted and flooded the nearby lake, which was even reported back in 2011 that the damages would affect up to 15 million people if melted, and it's melting. The water eroded the ground so much that the one building's foundation literally got washed away.
Oh, there it goes.
Many are scared of more glaciers to melt due to global warming, and if this means this will happen more frequently. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do.
What the f*** is that on 95? Yo. What the f*** is this? Bro, like for real, what the f*** is this?
Hey, y'all think this a UFO?
Joking? I can't believe we just saw that. Oh my god! That's so pretty.
This isn't a meteor or an alien. It's probably just space junk. The stunning light display over Melbourne wowed onlookers. A bright light streaking across the sky, leaving a trail of what appeared to be flames.
Wowee!
What's it going to hit? It's going to go in the water, man.
Nah, it's going across the sky.
Oh my god.
The colours produced as the object streaked across the sky suggested it was a man-made material, according to astronomer Alan Duffy. The object was coming down from orbit some 7 kilometres per second, and it would have been a couple of tonnes to begin with due to the fact that it was burning so brightly for so long. He said the mysterious object most likely burnt up before reaching the ground.
Amazing. You see what they trying to shoot at, huh? It's crazy.
This man accidentally landed in Area 51 while paragliding. But of course, the military didn't believe it was an accident and they immediately arrested him. And to make matters worse, he had a camera attached to his paraglider which only confirmed that he was probably a spy. And so they brutally interrogated him for 6 hours straight. Finally, at 2 a.m., his worried wife got a phone call telling her to immediately drive to a certain location in the desert. There, she found her husband with an army officer and several MPs. They said her husband was free to go if they signed an affidavit saying they have never been to Area 51. Of course, they signed and the paraglider and camera were returned, but with all the footage deleted. And
another step towards a cashless society. A big bank has confirmed customers in some locations can no longer withdraw money over the counter as branches continue to wind back services.
It's up there with the pub with no beer, the bank with no cash. ANZ has confirmed some branches no longer handle cash at the counter. Others are directing customers to smart ATMs for cash transactions. The latest figures on ATMs shows the number of machines has more than halved from almost 14,000 back in 2017 to around 6,000 in the middle of last year.
For years, cash was king, but not anymore. Hello there. I wondered if you had any change for a $50 note.
No, I don't have any cash.
Don't use cash anymore these days?
No, definitely not. No change at all.
Never?
Never. Not having cash is much more convenient.
For the first time since dollars and cents were introduced in the 1960s, Australia's cash supply is shrinking.
We are becoming fully digitalised. We're still producing cash out there, but we're just becoming more reliant on other ways to pay. And this is what you would expect. In fact, it's a trend that's long been in.
I knew this technology was out there, but I was not prepared for this. This woman pays for her groceries with her hand. You can see the transaction right here being approved when her hand hovers over the device. I'll show you the full clip with the original audio in a second, but it's only $200 to $300 to get this implemented in your hand, and it's the size of a grain of rice or a safety pin. They supposedly have great security just in case there are hackers trying to track your location or trying to hack your bank account, which just sounds weird to say because this is a device inside of your body. And I don't know if you know this, but thousands of people already have this implemented in their hand. Now I heard conspiracies of this being the beginning of the end and the mark of the beast, and I don't know if something like this is demonic in itself, but nothing surprises me anymore, and for that reason I'm out. Here's the full clip.
I'm at Whole Foods and I'm about to pay for my groceries with my... That's the closest thing I've...
The Peruvian alien attack has been leaked online, and allegedly one of the beings can be seen in this clip. Let's take a look. A photograph of a faceless man has also been making the rounds online, and it is frightening, as this is allegedly what the beings have done to him. Many are theorizing that these aren't aliens at all, due to their aggressive nature. What do you think?
Are they really here?
This weirdest looking thing is a gulper eel or pelican eel. It is named for its unique feeding behavior, which is similar to the one of your mom, and specialized anatomy. It possesses an enormous hinged mouth that can open wide enough to engulf prey much larger than its own body. When the gulper eel opens its mouth, it creates almost like a vacuum that sucks in water and prey, allowing it to capture food efficiently in the deep sea environment. Tag a friend with a mouth this big and follow for more animal facts.
Sí, es un avión, güey.
¡Sara!
No es, cabrón, si no está tu ruido.
¡No, ven a ver esto! ¡Es un ovni! ¡Ven a verlo! ¡Te saco fotos! ¡Un ovni!
Está haciendo ruido, güey. Ahí. Es un avión, coño. Sí, es de lucecitos. No mames, no es avión, ¿cómo va a ser avión de tamaño, güey? Puta, no mames. Sí, es altísimo, coño. No, güey, no es avión, esa madre. No chingues. El avión no tiene luz hacia los lados, coño. Es por la cosa.
One thing you gotta realize, the whole world know I hate rats, I hate snitches, I ain't in the telling. So people always want to know, is Pac alive? I'm the wrong facts. But I tell you this, if you try to find a person who cremated Tupac, after he supposed cremated Tupac, he retired and vanished into the sun, into the sunset, into the darkness. After if you really look at it, because Pac done all those songs, so the mathematically impossible. So answer your own question, is he here or is he dead? But at the same time, that was my little brother. His code name was Machiavelli, like mine is Simon. And if you know the story of Machiavelli, he faked his own. But at the same time, they want to put Pac back in prison. But Pac would fake his own disappear before he go back to prison. So you answer that. Do you still hear? Do you still sing? I'm quite sure you do. But once again, I ain't in the telling, so you never know.
There's at least 70 different species, and probably more. That's not the ones we usually see, though. We see the little gray ones. They're about 4.5 feet tall. And we see the ones that are called the Nordics. They're about 7 feet tall, look like us, but they're invariably blonde hair and blue-eyed. They're one of the species that we have on ice.
We recovered alien bodies from that incident. Right? And what'd they do with them?
They autopsied them. The reason they had to create an electromagnetic facility is the fact that the EBEs are so advanced. They have special environment, special air. It's my understanding they can only last about 20 minutes in this air. I think we made a deal with them, and their ultimate, what they want to do is regenerate their own race. Now, apparently, they've either had some kind of nuclear accident, or they're on the backside of a evolutionary genetic curve, and they're going downhill instead of uphill. In other words, in the autopsies, of which I have 2, we found out that their digestive system is atrophied. They can't eat through their mouth anymore. You know how they eat? Well, these cattle mutilations, they take the hormones and the enzymes from those cattle and they spread it on their skin, and their skin absorbs the nutrients and then excretes the waste back through their skin. And if you read Whitley Strieber's book or listen to him talk, he talks about when he's seen them doing this to their skin, and they're scraping the waste off.
Now, these cattle mutilations, there's been a film made about
gross.
that, and perhaps in a couple of minutes we can take a look at some excerpts of that.
Yeah, Strange Harvest was a good one, but another thing that happened here on March 4th, there was a documentary released on the best UFO photos that have been taken so far, including 1 minute and 38 seconds of videotape. Now, what happened is in November, this guy took these photos, took it into the TV station. They thought it was great, but nobody would believe it. So they spent 3 months checking the validity of the, authenticating the videotape and checking out the credibility of the witness. And when they had it all down, they put out this documentary, 30 minutes. I mean, it's ironclad. They're here.
So a man sailing, right, on a parachute. This is called parasailing. The man captures what looks like the Black Knight satellite, which is a UFO that's known to keep an eye over the Earth and observe Earth. And it just happens to be in California in this video. You could see him turning his head to see if he could get a good shot of it. Absolutely incredible and stunning footage. Share and like, guys.
That now. My God, I draw my face so fast if I tried to
UFO.
I tried to do more than walking down that
It's right here.
hill with all that heavy equipment.
UFO. Check out the UFO. It's way off in the woods. You can see the moon way over there.
That's the moon. It's the UFO.
Do more than walking down that hill with all that heavy equipment.
UFO. Check out the UFO. It's way off in the woods. You can see the moon way over there.
Remote viewing has been able to see what the reptilians actually can and can't do. The reptilians we have interacted with are highly telepathic, and they have extreme capabilities for neural engagement. They are a warrior species. They fight. Moreover, they like to fight. Apparently, they were genetically engineered originally as a mercenary fighting force. They broke off, are now independent, but they kept that ability. They are highly intelligent, and they have very low levels, if any, of empathy in terms of understanding, compassion, and that type of emotion.
From his background working for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, Richard Doty was exposed to intelligence documents that reference both insect-looking ETs as well as reptilian ones.
If you read the intelligence reports, their skin was almost reptilian. If you just looked at them from the chest up, you could say the head looked more humanoid, but the body didn't. And that's why I believe the DIA classified the reptilians And the praying mantis is in a separate category as the quathyloids because they came from the same planet, the same tissue samples, the same crafts, same technology. The humanoid-looking ones, maybe we call them reptilians, their hands were really thick digits, 4 fingers.
There is another caste of reptilians that actually have more of a humanoid features. So they don't have the long snout. They're not what you call your stereotypical reptilians, but they have some scales. They look almost like humanoid hybrid reptilian beings. Currently on Earth, there's still reptilian factions that have control of the Earth governments and the Earth religious sectors. These beings are maybe human in appearance, but some of them are full reptilians and some of them are reptilian hybrids. When I talk about full reptilians that appear humans, I'm talking about shape-shifting reptilians. So reptilians have the ability to shape-shift to look like something that they're not. So they're masters of deception and they're masters of disguise. They do it energetically. It is actually kind of a physical energetic transformation where they put on a shell that looks kind of a human shell, but they can't sustain it for very long, so they do it for short periods of time.
How close are we to seeing visual evidence, photos, videos? You know, Americans have heard the claims, the whistleblowers' allegations of government UFO programs. We've heard from lawmakers like yourself, Senator Marco Rubio, but people are ready for visual proof. Where is it?
Yeah. Well, it's out there. If you'll go on YouTube and watch Tic Tac video, it's just Google it, Tic Tac video. They've had a special on 60 Minutes. It's been covered in some of the major news outlets, mainly the printed medium, not so much the visual medium like yourselves. And it basically shows a craft that they are chasing that are Navy pilots. These are the best in the world, and it's audio and visual. And video, and you hear them saying, you know, these guys, they're just laughing because they can't keep up with them, and it looks like a little Tic Tac candy.
Okay, so it's Tic Tac, not TikTok. Just to confirm.
No, ma'am. Yeah, okay. Everybody always says, hey, yeah, these young people say, hey, boomer, it's not. Then I say, no, it's Tic Tac, like the candy. So, hey, and my daughter has corrected me on that.
Yeah, hey, I'm not on TikTok, so I just wanted to make sure myself. Tell us more about your claims, sir, that the government has known about UFOs since the 1800s, that they can fly underwater. What are you basing those allegations off of?
Well, I'm basing them off of those pilots' videos that you've seen, and there's multiple occasions of that. I've talked to multiple pilots, and these are the best pilots in the world. And you have to realize, well, even though they have so-called whistleblower protection from the military intelligence, and again, military intelligence is a whole lot like congressional ethics. It just doesn't exist. But if you talk to some of the best pilots in the world and they tell you that they've seen these objects, and then when they do report it, they get interrogated for like up to 8 hours and they get a blemish on their record. So I've talked to pilots who've literally said, we've destroyed any evidence of these videos because we don't want to have to go through all that. We've seen it. We all talk about it. It's pretty common knowledge among some of the pilots in certain areas. We've had actually 13 near-miss encounters. And to think that, you know, we've got a $50 million aircraft and some of the best pilots in the world who are risking their lives, why would they lie about it, honestly? All they're going to do is catch hell from their superiors, and this is ridiculous. And all I want is, I don't want to send the Pentagon another red cent, because that's what they're after. They see the public opinion, people like legitimate media like yourself are covering it. They're going to smell dollars. And, you know, and honestly, the Pentagon loses over $1 billion a year in their audits, and we don't have the guts to do anything about it. We don't need to study it anymore. Just release the files. Just release the unredacted files.
I think a lot of Americans would agree with you on that. Even the Americans who think that David Grush and, you know, the likes of him are credible, people are ready to see it. They want to see those files. Also, Congressman, Americans are already starting to question what the U.S. actually knows about alien life. And in a new poll from Redfield and Wilton Strategies, they found that 57% of respondents believe the government has more information than publicly shared. But is that necessarily a bad thing? given how sensitive and potentially dangerous this research seems to be.
Why is it dangerous?
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. I swear, I'm sorry I had to stop it. Why? Dangerous, exactly, bro. But look, man, I used to fly with these pilots all the time. I used to be away from home all the time flying with these pilots, bro. I used to do this, so, conversations is had.
Ma'am, they won't even release the Kennedy files on President Kennedy's assassination. And people have been, that's over 50 years. Anybody involved in that is dead. Ma'am, it is about power. It is about control. It is about the almighty dollar that they are trying to control. And that's all this is about. That's all this is about. Yep. Just release it. I'm not afraid of it. You go out at night and look at the stars, and the light from those stars literally left there before the time of Christ. That is the vastness of God's great universe, ma'am.
And
honestly, ma'am, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Congressman, one last question for you. Just a few seconds left. Should Americans be worried or no?
No, they should not. If they have this kind of technology, they could have done us in a long time ago, ma'am.
All right. Congressman Tim Burchett, thank you for your time.
You have been warned. They have always known.
I win.
Cheryl, it's not a race.
That's what losers say.
What is that?
The truth. Every time a new baby is born, the Federal Reserve issues a secret birth certificate printed by a company called the American Bank. That way, the government can use people as currency to back the debt they have with the World Economic Forum, which owns the central banks of every nation on Earth. But the WEF is just a front for the Council on Foreign Relations, which masterminded the 9/11 attacks as a pretext to invade Iraq, take the oil, and install fast food chains to make people slow, fat, and easily abductable by the shape-shifting reptilian aliens it works with. Now, back in the 30s, FDR made a deal with these reptilians to exchange people for technology. That was the basis of the New Deal. But ever since, they've been slowly replacing all the world leaders to create a nuclear holocaust to make global warming real for their takeover. That's how they made up the Cold War, by sending Leica to space to bite Neil Armstrong while Kubrick was faking the moon landing. Now they're using satellite waves, contrails, and measles vaccines as mind control, and fluoridating the water to keep people's gold fillings intact so they can be sent back to, you guessed it, the Federal Reserve, where all the gold and birth certificates are stored by the real puppet master, the world monarch, who is himself only the servant of the all-seeing eye who controls everything in the world.
I was wrong. You do win.